There's no one here. Rachel or Terry, you're not here to give public comments, are you?
No, I think we're here to talk in behalf of Tim for some of the expenses and stuff.
That's correct.
Okay. Right. All right. So there's no one here. Doug isn't here for public comment. So we'll move on to finance report. And that means I asked Doug to discuss the treasurer's report, the line of credit for FY24.
Yep. So yeah, I've got several things to cover here. So the line of credit is in process right now. It's a little bit different with M&T. I was actually just emailing with Lori Tarian earlier. We're gonna have I have a Zoom. She's actually retiring, so we're going to have a new account handler for M&T, which actually covers all of SVSU. So I'm meeting with them on Friday because when they're meeting with the other treasurers for the other districts, I'm actually on vacation at the end of this month. So I'm going to meet with her. We're also going to chat about the line of credit because M&T has a little bit of a different process and a little bit of a different calculation. So what we'll do tonight, she said, we'll entertain a motion. We can do it at the end of my report for the borrowing up to $350,000 for the line of credit, which is what we've done in the past few years. We're just trying to iron out the exact calculation. So I'll keep everybody up to date via email over the next week or so. There's no problem getting one. We're basically approved at this point. It's just a matter of how much that line of credit will be. So I'm going to talk to her a little bit more about it on Friday. It's easier, obviously, to speak than to do it via email. So I'll remind you at the end, we can entertain a motion to have that in the minutes to approve the borrowing. And then it would be also to have as chairman of the board, Ray, to sign on behalf of the board. The clerk signs.
We lost you.
Oh, which part did you miss?
Oh,
I don't think we missed any context, but
yeah, context.
Just at the end.
Signing on behalf of the board.
Okay. Yeah, that was the last thing I said. Can you hear me okay right now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other thing that we'll need to have a motion on is the bond payment is due. Is this better?
Yes.
See if I can turn it up a little bit here. Bear with me for just a second. I know my internet was bogging a little bit down with the rain coming through, so I don't know. I turned it all the way up. Is that a little bit better? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll need to have a motion to authorize me to send the wire transfer to US Bank. The amount, Lori, for minutes and for the motion will be $53,545. And that breaks out 30,000 of that goes to principal. And then the difference, which is 23,545, goes towards interest. And that's the annual payment. And as we noted last month, we actually did receive the check from the IRS, which covers the bulk of the interest. So while last year's took us almost a full year, they're back on track with getting those payments out. So that portion has been received, and I will send this wire just before I go on vacation. So it'll be there in time. Is there any questions about that payment? It doesn't really change, and it's the annual one.
When are we done with that?
That is a good question. I will email US Bank. On here, it doesn't have the maturity. It just has, yeah, I thought it was within a few years. I'll confirm that, Matt, because I have to email them to let them know the day I'm sending the wire out. So I'll confirm, and then I'll send an email to everybody and let them know when the final payment is.
Feel like we're getting close.
I think it's like 2026. I think it was a 15-year note, but I'm not certain of that. So.
Doug, I have the correct figures. Please tell me what this is for again, so I have it correct?
Yep. So this is the bond repayment, the annual payment that goes to US Bank.
Okay, thanks. Thank
No
you.
problem. Yep. And the last piece that I have, so we got the final calculation from the state for delinquent taxes. And while the village still has some delinquencies, the school has been made whole. The reason that is primarily because of late homestead filings and things like that, corrections that the state made. So with the delinquent collections that we've already been being made, there was an overpayment to the SVSU, which was coming back through. So there's a payment on this warrant in the amount of $8,463.84. So that was a payment that came from the SVSU over that makes everything whole. So while, like I said, I still am collecting delinquents, those will stay with the village because the village has already made the school district whole. Is everybody?
Is that coming from MAU or the SVSU? You said the SVSU.
I would have.
Okay.
Sorry, MAU. Sorry. Yep.
Right.
Nope. My mistake. MAU.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Because there typically is an overpayment to them every year, because we pay out based on the preliminary state, and it usually has a difference. This year it was right around 10,000. So the difference to the school was 8,004 something, and then the difference of the rest, the 1,900, that's going back to the village. And then any delinquent collections going forward stay with the village because both school districts, MAU and the graded school district, have been made whole by the village.
Okay. Right. So is that clear to everyone else? So it's not as clear as it usually is to me, but I do understand. I understand these transactions back and forth have to occur because there are payments to two different entities, and sometimes there's an overpayment.
Right,
So
and it just happened this
I don't
year.
see the paperwork, so I don't actually see the calculation.
Yep, and I can provide anything that anybody has questions on. And I spoke to Mary, and she said in past years. Right. And like I said, the school district, and Mary had also said this year was the highest that that the village was able to pay out early. So that piece of the puzzle also helped things, to not have the school lagging behind. So with the state calculations actually worked in the favor of, we've already made them whole. So that piece of it worked out.
Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, like I said, then we'll just need to entertain a motion to approve borrowing of up to $350,000 for the tax anticipation note.
Yeah. Well, and also we have to authorize the wire transfer for the.
Oh, correct. Right. Sorry. I forgot we didn't actually have a motion.
I would make motions on both accounts for the wire transfer for the bond and what was the other one?
Nope, just the two, the payment for the bond and the borrowing.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Yeah. All right. Questions, comments? Tim, did you have something to say? Oh, you're just raising your hand then.
I was seconding.
We haven't voted yet.
No.
Okay. All right. So we're authorizing the wire transfer of the money to make the bond and interest thereon on July 1st when it has to happen, which is why we have to do it at this odd time instead of waiting till July. It has to be there. It's July 1st, and we don't want to miss it.
Correct.
And the second thing, the line of credit is a little less pressing, but will need it.
Right.
Starting probably in August, we'll need it at least. But actually, we're not actually borrowing money at this point in time, or we're just.
Well, correct. We're
getting
signing the
an approval.
documents. Correct. The motion is to approve the borrowing of the up to 350, and we should just call it, Lori, for the minutes, we should just call it a tax anticipation note.
Okay.
It is in the form of a line of credit, but we just should, for clarification purposes, call it a note. But right, you're correct, Ray. We won't be accessing it until we absolutely need to, which hopefully won't be until August.
And this is from M&T Bank.
Correct. That is with M&T.
Okay. So let's vote on the line of credit first. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Secondly, we'll vote on the resolution to make the wire transfer. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's that business. Now, I have on here discussing a reimbursement that we're making in the warrants. So both of the next two items, D and E, on this agenda are for related to warrants, I believe. So, and since Terry and Rachel are here, did I not send you the my take on the expenses? Didn't I send you that sheet that I wrote out?
Who?
To Terry and Rachel, as well as to the board. I sent it to the board, certainly.
Yes, I received it.
I do not have a copy of that. No. Is that something you could send?
Well, I could but I'm not going to do it for the moment because I'll just be confused. So.
Yeah, let me
wait.
see if I can. I'll try to look it up real quick.
Yeah. So let's see if it's in the papers here. I don't think it is. But. Getting more disorganized. All right. So. Did I attach it here? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to find this piece of paper. So Matt, can you look this email that I sent out to you and the rest of the board that has an analysis of this transaction?
Ray, can you clarify? I think that I have the right one. Are you talking about the meeting that you had and then this amount of the state grant?
No.
Okay, what are you referring to?
The meeting on, I sent out minutes for the meeting that we had last Wednesday at the school, but
Yeah.
I also sent out my analysis of the request from the village school and justified the number that I came up with. And what I didn't do was send that to them because I was waiting. I sent it out to the board to see if they had any issues with it. I heard nothing, but I failed to then send it to.
Is this something that, Ray, that you sent to Jim Kosis as well as? Yeah,
I sent it to him as well. Yes.
All right.
So I don't have that. Okay, would you send that to me too, Ray or Matt, please?
I would.
But
that's not what I wanted to do. That's silly.
wait, I think I might have. I have it. I have it. Reconciliation of building expenses with BSNB.
Yes.
And the elevator. I found it.
Send it.
Okay, so
I'll send that.
Can you read that for me?
Is it the Word document? Is that what it is, Kim?
Well, I have to open the attachment now. I was in the process of
Yeah, there are
forwarding it.
4 attachments.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have those open and I can keep forwarding and you could?
Opening one right now.
Okay, okay.
It was June 6th. That was the date
Yes.
of the email, if everybody needs
Yeah.
to see it.
Yep. Who wants it? I can.
I just, you have it, Matt, I'll take you off. Rachel and Terry, is that the only two that need it?
Well, it's good for minutes if I have it.
Absolutely, if you're not on there.
Kim,
Yep,
if you could throw it to me too, please.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And Doug, should I use Village in North Bennington one or Village Treasurer North Bennington?
Let's see. Go ahead and use the Village Treasurer, the Gmail one. I've got that on my phone right here.
Okay.
It's 6 to 1, half a dozen the other, but
Okay. Everybody should, I've just sent that out.
Thanks, Kim.
Oh, my pleasure, Matthew.
Did you send it to me?
Nope.
I
I
could
will.
have it, but I can't at the moment.
Ray, it's back from June 6th if you want it.
Just sent it, Ray.
What?
Just sent
Yeah.
it to you.
Okay, let me see if I. It's buried in somewhere.
You should have just got it again right now.
Right there.
Okay. Inbox. Okay, thank you. So, okay. Well, I don't see my actual analysis.
Oh, so maybe that's another one. That might have been the day after that.
I know I sent it to you, and it's not appearing on my screen. But there's so much stuff on here.
Expense reimbursement.
It's June 8th. June 8th. It's right in it.
Yep.
June 8th.
Oh, I didn't get a June 8th.
Okay, here it is. All right. So June 6th.
Excuse me, would you send that to me now, Tim? Sorry to interrupt. The June 8th one. Thanks.
I'm going to send it to Kim right now.
Thank
I'm
you.
just going to read it.
Sending it, Matt.
So this refers to a document, a summary, a spreadsheet that Terry had sent me from the village school. And I itemize it just linearly following the spreadsheet. And for item 1, for Atlantic sprinkler antifreeze replacement, I said 0 because I consider this an operating expense and I have for some years. For the Bennington heating and cooling, which was a repair to the refrigerator, I point out that it belongs to the district and replacement parts are our responsibility. So that's $1,042.50 to be reimbursed for TKE elevator maintenance. That's $438.92. That's a semi-annual expense for them to come over and inspect and do some grease and other things. Vermont elevator inspection services that you're required by the state to have an independent elevator inspector inspect the elevator once a year. So that's a payment to that elevator inspector. Then Katie and Associates asbestos inspection, which presumably will be the last one we have, Terry told me, because we're clean and we don't seem to have any active asbestos to deal with in the building, haven't for some years. That's a $300 fee for that inspection. Alarms unlimited. This was repaired to the fire alarm system, cellular communicator replacement of a part there, and for the phone, and a cost of a cost for the service fee. So that amounted to $900 between those two, and then another TKE elevator servicing. Since we own the elevator and it has to be operating for the building to be in compliance, we pay for that as part of maintaining the elevator as a serviceable operating vehicle for use in the school, for the school to operate. Heating and plumbing. This was divided between repairing a waste pipe that had fractured underneath the stage and was causing an odor. So finally it was taken care of. And there were also boiler cleaning and maintenance and improved heating infrastructure, I say. And then Bennington refrigeration, another cooler thermostat repair, part and labor. And finally, the last item is a preventive maintenance from the elevator, TKE, elevator service company. And I'm saying we'll pay it. It's $3,700, but I think there's got to be duplication between that and the two semi-annual visits. I just think we ought to combine that into one package. I don't understand why it isn't. I think it's just, it should be. And I hope that some investigation can take place of what actually is going on in these visits. So,
Ray, I can speak to that. Right now we have the base plan for the elevator maintenance, where they basically just come in, make sure nothing's leaking, everything's looking good, and then walk out. It's maybe an hour visit each time, if that.
Right, that's the $39 visit.
Every 6 months, yep.
Yes.
So and like I said, the other one is they're basically going to go through the whole system, make sure everything.
Yeah. And do that. How often is that done? It's not indicated that I saw.
It's right. It's a one-time thing that they may reach out in a few more years to do it again. Rachel, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is something that has not been done since you took over doing this before me, correct?
Yeah, to my knowledge, I don't think this has been done in at least 4 or 5 years. I think we have been sort of piggybacking on whenever a service person's in the area, so we get very minimal, sort of the bare bones treatment. My suggestion would be that it would be something that we would do once every 5 years or so. That the elevator is definitely starting to show its age, so anything we can do to keep it in good shape would be great, since we have currently a lot of people getting stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I would just like more information. They give you pitifully small amount of information about what they're doing, and it's a significant charge for one visit. I don't know how long it takes them, but they're incredibly expensive. I know that, and that's partly because we're at a distance and we're an odd elevator, but I really would like to know what's in that. I want that unpacked a little more, and why, if that occurs in 1 year, do we have those two other visits? Is there a necessity to dump this on top of the 2 semi-annual visits, or can we supplant those 2 semi-annual visits with this?
Ray, I can look into other service packages that they offer and see what is available and what their pricing would be
Right.
on a every 6-month basis. And I can get that to you at some point. But as of right now, go ahead.
I am authorizing paying this. I'm accepting the expense, but I really feel not taken advantage of by you, but taken advantage of by the elevator company.
You know the answer, Ray, and it's because they can, and they can just tell you to.
And there is no recourse, right? But we can squawk a little bit and see what we
Doug. Doug's got his hand up there.
So Terry, for that $3,700 one that they have labeled as door operator package, do they give you an inspection report that breaks down what they did and what looks good and what may need to be replaced in a year or anything like that? Or do they just give you the bill for $3,700 and tell you have a nice day?
I can request that when they come in. Any of the services that they offer, like this, or when they do the weight test, it's payment required in advance for that. I'm playing phone tag with my the salesperson there now, trying to see when they'll be in.
Right.
So I'm still trying but when they do come, I'll try to get some sort of like printout or what they find for any issues or potential issues coming up on that.
So the $3,700 charge that Ray is suggesting that is being authorized, that actually hasn't happened yet? They haven't done that?
No, they have not.
They take payment in advance. They won't come unless.
Okay. Gotcha. So then when they come, they'll give you a report of what they find.
Yeah. Right.
If they don't, I'll make sure I get one after they're done.
Tim Kane had a question.
Yeah, I'm thinking that should be, as soon as they walk in the door, I think, especially to what Rachel was saying is, if we want to be doing this every 5 years or, whatever the case may be, if we don't have a report that says, hey, this thing is going to last, another year, or this one, at $3,700, I don't even think we should have to ask. But if we have to ask, then I think we should get as much information as to what their professional opinion is and where we're at.
I know we have to have the pressure test every 5 years or something like that. That's part of something that does have to be done because they have to make sure the hydraulics are functioning properly. Because it is on a hydraulic ram. I think there's fail safes in that, but we need to know that everything is working and that the fail safes will work if something happens to the hydraulics.
Well, and Ray, that's kind of what I was alluding to, because as the landlord, if that's the the landlord's responsibility, and we're paying $3,700 for them to come out and look at it, we want to know what their professional opinion is, and it also backs up the invoice, for what they're doing. So that was kind of where I was going with that, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So I laid all this out in that, which everybody has now. I'm sorry that I didn't send it to everybody before.
I think so, but Ray, Tim Kane has had his hand up for a while here. I'd like to hear from our new member.
Go ahead.
Not that I know how to access anything like this, but is there any money that could be used for like accessibility or disability acts? I'm not sure if there's money out there for that kind of thing to be used for, a technology that is directly related to accessibility and disabilities. Just throwing it out there.
My guess would be, Tim, is if we had to replace it or significant repair, we could probably try to track a grant down. But I think the normal, inspections and making sure it's working properly, I don't think we'd be able to get anything for that. But
yeah, I don't think we'd get money for that.
Right. But if we had to do it, it's if you can get grant for anything, I'm all for it.
Right.
My question is, what the hell? I mean, this goes all of 20 feet up and 20 feet down. Right. Yep. So should there be catastrophic failure of the pressure system or the hydraulics or the whatever, What the hell? I mean, I don't think there'd be an injury, but I'm just wondering. I mean, why? Why do we spend this? I guess because we have to.
I think it's required. State requires this pressure tests and stuff like that, or else.
Well, but we've had that pressure test a year or so ago, and we passed that. Well, I think it was last year, actually. We passed that. So this is, I mean, I'm authorizing it because I think that I'm kind of hedged in by the other two inspections, and that this is, you know, there are things that could be improved, I'm sure, about operation, but what I want to see on this 3700 is stuff that really looks like it benefits the building, because it benefits the operation of the machine and makes it safer. And I just find myself doubtful at the moment. So I hopefully will see results that calm my fears about that.
What I think is these companies generally deal with elevators that are much more complicated, or multiple floors or whatever.
Right.
And those companies are like, you know, just pay it, whatever. But in our case, I think it just seems kind of silly. So we should ask the questions and get the information.
Yeah. Okay, so Matt brings up a really good point. You know, I'm accustomed to these elevators because I had my shop in the BCIC for many years, and that the elevator that serviced my floor was a piston style hydraulic elevator like that. And I don't, you know, it did get serviced periodically, and I'm sure it was expensive, but it was only out once or twice in 20 plus years that I was in the building. So I kind of think the real problems that we've had with this elevator have been related to the door, because the doors were being inadvertently jammed.
And that was been resolved.
And that burned out the motherboards, which were extraordinarily expensive. They were close, they were 2/3 of this $3,700 expense. Now we don't have motherboards because we manually close that door and make certain that there's a circuit there, because it won't run without the door being closed properly. So the other door is the door on the outside that locks off access to it when it's not at that floor and is elevating it or dropping into the basement or whatever. And it doesn't seem that complicated. As long as the hydraulics work on it, it's going to stay where it is or move to the floor that it needs to go to, as long as the controls allow it to do so. Now, there could be something wrong with the electrics or mostly the switches, but that should be, I think, maintained annually or semi-annually by the elevator company. And so
That's not in the current contract for the elevator. Stuff like that.
So what is?
I'd like to have a conversation with you and the elevator company. Okay. When they come, I'd like to understand what's going on, because I feel reluctant to pay it, but I feel like I have to pay it, because I want to make sure that it's operational.
Terry, how long is this contract that we have with TK?
It's I think it's 3 years. We just renewed it the other year when I started. And at that point, before we renewed it, I did shop around for other elevator companies to try to find, I just basically, okay, apples to apples, here's what we've got. What can you offer for this same type of service? And TK came back as around half of the next lowest bidder for this type of work.
Yeah, and so we felt lucky to be able to get this company to do this, because I do remember that conversation that they were the least expensive alternative. And but I just feel like I need to have a clear understanding, and it doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone on the board who has a better grasp of what's going on than I do. But so what's the board's feeling on this? Because it is in the warrant this way, I believe.
We're gonna pay it, and then we're gonna figure out what's going on, because I'm tired of just feeling lucky to get screwed.
Right. That's sort of my feeling too. But
I do want to just jump in and say, I think one of the things we have to take into consideration is this tune-up. I think the reason it is so necessary right now is because we've used the elevator probably 20 times more frequently over the last 3 years as we ever did before. With the pandemic, we were using it a ton. We were putting a lot of stuff in there. We're going up and down an awful lot. Right. And I really feel like that's probably why it didn't happen prior to this. And maybe we could squeak by with sort of the routine every 6-month visits. And at this point now, we've just seen so much wear and tear. Maybe the tune-up won't be needed, but every 5 to 10 years in the future. But I do think that's why it's risen up right now. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there.
So I think.
Could I piggyback on what Rachel's saying too, to the rest of the board? Being involved at this school in a medical capacity, I feel like, and maybe this will turn itself around, but there's also more and more students that need that elevator more and more often. So I think that's something that we need to consider when thinking about the elevator. And I mean, I think Matt was joking, but I certainly wouldn't want to fall 20 feet down. Anything over 12 feet is considered a very serious fall in that elevator. So we just have lots of kids, and I think we're going to have lots of kids needing it more and more. So
I'll defer to the medical professional.
So
we could do a test, Patterson.
Okay, so that's all good. But Terry, do we keep a log of what has been done to the elevator?
Every time TK comes and does a service in the unit, there's a log book on the elevator pump room.
Right. Okay. And that's available for inspection, obviously, by you. And I guess I could look at it, although maybe I won't understand what's right. So I think that would help. And also I think it would help if I listen to the tech that comes when they come. So I understand.
When I get a date and time, I'll let you know.
Okay.
When they'll be there. Then if you want, you can talk to the technician directly.
All right. So Rachel and Terrence, you heard me read the amounts for these various items which are on that spreadsheet. Do you have any other comments about any of the others?
The only question I have is the only one that you are striking is the antifreeze loop for the sprinklers.
Yep.
Okay, and
I adjusted certain others because they had items that I just considered operational.
Did we not already settle on that antifreeze deal in the past?
Yeah, I decided a few years ago that I wasn't going to pay for that because it's, you know, we have to maintain the system per se, but we don't operate the building. So I think it's a kind of a normal operating expense that you have to replace that antifreeze loop because it's a cold loop periodically. And I don't see why that's the landlord's expense in this particular case.
But isn't it in the best interest of the landlord to have sprinklers that are going to actually work and
well,
put out?
You have a sprinkler system. We provide that. We get that maintained, and that has had maintenance in the past. I know that you can argue both ways. I understand that, but it seems to me that it's clearly kind of an operational expense, not an infrastructure expense, but an expense like a capital expense to maintain it. That's the way I see it.
I thought that we had come to that conclusion in the past with Tim, maybe, maybe not. Maybe we were at an impasse and maybe we paid for the last one and now it's.
No, we haven't paid for it in a number of years. I did pay for it some years back initially, but I changed my mind. But yes, I flipped because it seems to me that's really where it belongs as a operational expense.
I agree. It's a regular maintenance issue. I don't know. How's the board feel?
Well, I mean, can we contextualize this can we use another example to try to help me come to this decision? Like, what is another sort of operating expense that we could compare this to that we don't pay for?
Well,
because we could say that the elevator is an operating expense and then we don't pay for that. Like, it's just a sticky, like Ray said, you could argue this either way.
Yeah, there are arguments both ways on certain things. I agree with that. But so I've always found this a difficult decision, and this is the first time I've ever had much discussion about this with the board. I pointed out my reasons in the past, and it's been settled, and I think I've been fairly generous over the years.
What about inspections of the kitchen or the furnace?
Yep, I think we ought to pay for anything that is like a license to operate based on, you know, like the alarm system, the fire alarm system. It has to be there. So I repair that because it's part of the equipment has to be operational to be occupied. But
does that apply to the elevator? For instance,
you can apply it that way. I apply it to the elevator. That's what I just did.
I know.
This whole thing.
I'm just fleshing out the questions here.
Right.
Would we not be occupied? Could we not occupy the building if the antifreeze isn't changed? I don't know.
Well, if we owned the building and no one occupied it, we'd have to supply the antifreeze, right?
Okay. Good answer.
Quite clearly. The refrigeration unit for the kitchen, you know, you can expect repairs on those machines, the coolers, of course. We bought them, we own them, and I could consider that an operational expense, but we own the whole building, as a matter of fact. So we own all the major equipment that's part of the infrastructure, the elevator, so forth and so on. So it's a very ticklish thing to deal with because you can look at it from two ways. in every case, but I try to stick to what, like inspections, you have to pay for inspections, yes. And we just paid for the alarm upgrade last summer, and there will be another one this summer because the state wanted the voice mechanism that comes on when there's a fire to warn everybody that there's a fire. I don't know if there's a visual record for hearing impaired, if there's a visual thing that comes on except flashing lights, right? There are flashing lights in the hallway when the fire alarm is on. Right?
It's still the strobes and with the voice enunciators that will also tell you there's a fire, please evacuate.
Yeah, right.
Ray.
I'm paying for that,
Ray.
What?
Quick question. So, do you know, and maybe I could look at it sometime, I've never looked at it. How is our lease with the village school very general, or is it very specific?
It's pretty specific, but it's not specified, enumerated. We own the building. We're responsible for the structural issues. I call infrastructure part of the building, because it's equipment that has to be there, like the elevator has to be there, the fire alarm system has to be there. So maybe I'm broadening the scope as it is. Operational expenses are for the village school to handle.
Right, and that's kind of where I was just wondering because,
right.
Looking at it.
It's supposed to be a net debt lease, but the net doesn't get to the point where we have no expenses. It goes to whether the building is intact, what needs work on it itself, like the exterior painting, because that harness work had, we believe has old lead there, so we had to get it painted to encapsulate the lead because we have to be safe in that regard.
Right.
The roof, we put the roof on, those things like that, are necessary for the building to be in operable condition.
Right.
So it's fine line to parse at some points, but
because my question kind of went that route, but also, in a lot of commercial leases that I see, doing the banking side of things,
right.
You've got CAM charges, common area maintenance, that the tenant pays for. So I didn't know if there was CAM charges in there that, certain things fell under.
TAM, like waste
CAM.
removal?
Nope, CAM, like the letter CAM, it stands for common area maintenance.
Oh, okay, right. Thanks.
So you could have, items like that cover, and again, without seeing the lease, I don't know. And I'm not trying to, like Ray said, you can go either way. And if you're starting to split hairs over which is which, it might be better to kind of start to spell things out. So you don't have the question of, is it a landlord charge or is it a tenant charge? Just so it's cut and dry and we don't have, or the board, I should say, the board doesn't have to try to define if it's an operational, if it's a building, if it's, those types of things. So that's all.
Yeah. Well,
That's a great idea.
I mean, Ray, how often Rachel, how often does this antifreeze loop have to be changed out? Do we know?
Well,
Annual or is it?
No, I think it's 2 or 3 years.
I want to say, yeah, and it's there's several loops, and usually we get to the inspection, which is annual, and we find, okay, so one loop needs to be, replaced or recharged or whatever the word is.
Recharged.
Right, recharged.
I think they're alternated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many loops there are actually, but so we pay for the inspection, and I always pay for that, but I feel like
So I guess my thought process would be like, if something happens to the boiler or the oil tanks or anything like that, then we're responsible, but we're not responsible to fill the oil tanks.
Right.
So I could see where you're saying the antifreeze loops, they're just recharging those loops. So that's essentially, antifreeze that they're putting into that. So it's kind of like in that aspect, we would pay for the inspection of the system, but anything that goes
like
inside that.
The oil in your engine. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see where you're seeing that. Yeah.
Yep.
Ray, what's the total amount for the antifreeze?
Was it $830? I think $800.
$900.
Okay.
It's expensive because it's propylene glycol, food grade propylene glycol, so that you aren't poisoned if you get showered with it.
Yeah. Well, you'd be lucky to be alive. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And with kids, they might imbibe it in some way if they encountered it. It's possible, I suppose.
It's tasty, for sure.
Is thinking about operational expenses of an unoccupied building to maintain the building a good benchmark to go by?
Yeah, but it's occupied.
Nobody. I like your point.
Because if you were to say sell the building, you would have to have antifreeze in the system.
Yes, and we provided a building that was complete.
No, I'm not trying to be contentious. I'm just trying to set a benchmark. I'm trying to find
I think we're hashing over the same ground, and I'd like to get off of this, frankly, because I think I'm pretty generous about it, and I don't think there are sufficient arguments to overturn what I've decided here, which I think is, as I say, pretty generous. And
on that note, I'll make a motion
those are all relevant considerations. But in fact, because we lease it and we have a lease that specifies, it doesn't specify individually expenses, although I could go look at it and see if there's more specification than I remember there. But basically, we're responsible for the structure, and because the structure includes things like elevator, sprinkler system, fire alarm system, and those are all inspected and all have to be passable for the building to be occupied legally, except for short periods of time when you're repairing something. I look at it that way. The boiler is another one. The boiler has to be operational. There's cleaning and tuning it up every year. And there are control issues at times, but I put the controls, the maintenance of the operating system for the operation of, control of the system onto the village school because they operate it. I will pay for replacements of electronic parts that get fried and replacement bits on the burners and so forth. But I don't pay for the oil. I don't pay for the water that goes into the tank, etc. I try to, and I'm just done with this. So. Can we move on?
So what's our action to vote on whether or not we're paying this money or not?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion not to, by Ray's recommendation, to not pay that portion of the invoice from the village. No,
the amount that I authorized, I put into the billing was $8,400 and 64 cents basically. So are you making a motion to approve that as part of the law?
Indeed, I am.
Okay, thanks. I'll second it. We've had our discussion. Is there any further comment?
Not at this time from me. Thank you, though.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Terry. So I call the question. All in favor? Aye. Kieran, Matthew, myself, Tim. Kim?
I guess I almost want to abstain. I feel like Doug's recommendation about sort of coming to some sort of clear consensus on operating expenses versus what, so that this doesn't continue to happen. And it seems like Doug has some knowledge in some of these sort of commercial contractual agreements would really help us in the future so that we all know where we stand and that it doesn't feel like arbitrary lines are made. That, I don't know, I just think it would be beneficial for all of us.
All right. So you're abstaining?
Sure.
No,
I'll abstain with the hopes that we could come to sort of some sort of better understanding so this doesn't continue to happen.
Yeah. Well, okay, thanks.
Matthew, will you please rephrase or repeat your motion? Or someone?
Matthew's motion, was it?
Yes, please.
Yep. The motion is to approve the payment to the village school in the amount of $8,463.84 for various items of building infrastructure maintenance for the fiscal year fiscal year 23.
Okay, I've got it. Thank you.
Yep. And it should be noted that this is already in the warrant. There's a check in the warrant for this. So we've approved it with Kieran, myself, Matthew, and Tim voting for it, and Kim abstaining.
So you prefer this motion to be separate from the approving the warrants?
Yes, we'll just approve the warrants. Because it's an individual item there that had breakdowns. Normally, this has never been an issue, really. We've talked about it briefly at times. Okay, so where are we now? Late entry. Is in here, right? So there was one other thing I would just mention in the warrant, and that is there's the reimbursement payments to the village school that we just approved. Mm-hmm. There's an item for a student at Pine Popple that we didn't know we had, and they sent in a residency application, and so for portion, they just moved to town at the latter part of this school year. And so I approved a payment for that portion of the tuition for that student. And then minutes for, that's $3,600. And then minutes for last month from Lori for $75. That amounts to $12,143.34. In addition, there is a payroll warrant for Doug for is that for a quarterly, Doug?
Yes.
Yeah, great, thanks. Quarterly payment to Doug for his services as our treasurer.
Keep it twice the price.
That's $2,960.38. Right. But that includes payroll taxes. So the total warrant is plus cover sheet, wasn't it? Well, the 2960.38 is in addition to the $143.34. So there are actually two warrants here, I guess. A payroll warrant and a vendor warrant, so to speak. And so that totals about $15,000, a little over $15,000. So I'll make a motion that we approve the warrant.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ray, can I just ask a question? I wanted to wait until after the vote.
Right.
So is there anything in the school choice, or how does it determine? So if this person moved in mid-year, I thought you had to declare residency at the beginning of the school year. So I'm just curious as to how that works. Are we just paying it and moving it along?
We have students that come in, there's always some change during the year. Students leave the village school, students come into the village school. Yep. We have a particular agreement with them, so we have a 2-count system, but I do not have that with the other schools, right. School districts, the schools that children attend. We pay for, I don't recall that we've ever had anyone who goes in or out of Shaftesbury or one of the other UESD schools. I assume that there would be a prorate if they left. I've never had we've never had a student who entered late, significantly late there, but I assume we would be billed. And I think we obviously, it seems like well, at least to me, it seems like it's a reasonable. We say we're going to pay for children's education, and when someone moves to town, we have to deal with their choice, right?
Yeah, the point is that we have an agreement with the village school where we make assessments of enrollment through the year, but with any of these other options that students have, we do not. So then we have to just prorate, based on the time that they're there.
And if we prorate when they leave, I think we have to prorate if they come in.
Yep.
Okay, I was just, like I said, just pure curiosity. I wasn't trying, that's why I wanted to do it after the vote. Because I wasn't trying to, I'm just trying to understand,
Mhm.
how it works and, with that, when we talk about the budgeting at the beginning with, we have these students that are going to this school and we have this number of students in the village school. So then all of a sudden you have somebody move into North Bennington and then they take advantage of the school choice. And now we're paying to Pine Cobble
Mhm.
after they've moved into the
Right.
school district. So that I was just trying to understand the timing and how it all works. That's all.
Yep. That's
Right.
what we have to deal with the other choice, the other choices they have. Unlike the village school where after census, whenever that spring census is, they come in, we don't pay anything for that kid till the next year.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, so we've approved half of the consent agenda. We haven't approved the minutes from last month or the minutes I submitted for the meeting last week. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from May of 2023 plus the minutes that I submitted for the June 7th facilities meeting at the village school.
I'll make that motion, or I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's all of us. No abstentions or nays. Policies, we have a parcel of policies here, most of which have fairly minor changes or no changes in certain cases, as far as I can tell. And so I'll just go through the ones we have to warn first, because we usually don't have any discussion on that. So policy 2401, access control and visitor management, which is an agency of education required policy. We're asked to warn it. I'll move that we warn it.
Second.
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. Any comments on that? Kiernan, have you seen this policy yet?
No, there wasn't a policy meeting from my knowledge.
Can I say something real quickly about the first two?
Yeah, sure.
The first two are as a result of a governor recently signing S-138, an act related to school safety into law. And we've actually, all districts in the state of Vermont have been given a quick deadline. So the first two, our attorney Dina Atwood has just asked us to please warn them as is.
Okay. So this is part of that. And I'll call the question. Are we willing to warn it? I am.
Yes, second.
All right. Okay, so we're voting. All in favor of warning it?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Policy 2470, fire and emergency preparedness drills. This is also an AOE required policy pursuant to the signing of this act.
Correct.
So move to accept.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Then the 3100 transportation. This is a warning as well. Policy on transportation.
What's the meat of that one? Sorry, I did not read it.
It's just a reminder, there's two additional sentence updates. I don't have it in front of me, but linked conversation at the meeting was around
3100.
Yep, 3100. It was around, and the highlights are in the packet too. Right. the updates are just I think related to just professional learning for bus drivers. So it's just 2 little sentences that are in there.
Transportation, really.
The school districts are, looks to be the school districts are responsible for training and supporting.
Yep.
And it doesn't fall on the SVSU.
Right.
It affects our middle school and high school students, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Or does this affect Arlington? Because Arlington was added into the policy and Sandgate.
Correct. It's an SV. Yes, correct. It's an SVSU policy.
It's adding Arlington. It's changing the name of the Union Elementary District, or the individual districts become the Union Elementary District, and I don't know why the SVSU.
But the SVSU doesn't do busing for Arlington or Sandgate districts, do they?
And it has a reference to Vermont State Board Rule 9300 that apparently was not there before. And that applies to transportation, all transportation, both allowed and extraordinary, that school districts are responsible for these costs, not the supervisory union.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this is just a warning, okay? And it makes the bus company responsible for training, supporting, and supervising bus drivers in the use of PBIS, which is, you want to speak to the acronym, I know what it is.
Behavior intervention supports, yes.
Yes. Right. So the bus drivers are going to be trained in positive behavioral interventions and supports.
Here's an idea. So I would approve that. I mean, or move to approve.
Okay.
The warrant.
And I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. The next one to be warned is policy 4001, harassment of employees. And no, that's the wrong one.
Could I have a little thing about the next two?
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I was just going to, Jonathan Phipps, our equity coordinator, attended the last few policy meetings and just made some suggested language, updated language changes to both 4001 and 4003.
Right, and they're highlighted in yellow on this page off of the website. Again, there's the language change to incorporate Arlington School District and Sandgate School District, and delete the individual schools that are form the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School and substitute the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School. There's a particular paragraph in there that's been added about harassment per se, substituted for a different paragraph that was in the policy. And harassment is now generally unlawful. So unlawful is removed from, no, it's added to the descriptor of harassment. I guess you can have harassment and you can have unlawful harassment. And sexual harassment by is basically a district employee or person engaged to perform work or service for the district under certain conditions. Okay. And then there are examples.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you ought to read it because actually the changes are not just de minimis. There are actually substantive changes in this policy. So before we approve it, we should, when it comes back around to be approved, before that, you should read it and see if you have anything to suggest or say to it. And you can tell Kiernan if you have any objections or comments to make, because he sits on the policy committee for us. Okay, so can we?
At this juncture, I'll move to warn it.
Yep. And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thanks. That's everybody. And 4003 bullying prevention adults. That is also, again, heading changes to districts that are covered. And then some language changes. So is this from Jonathan as
Correct, yes.
Great. A substantial amount of change to this. And so at this point, we just need to get it warned so that it can be reviewed.
Motion to warn.
Second.
All right. So Matthew warned it, proposed it, and Tim, you second it. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Policy, now we're getting to the 3 policies we were asked to adopt. The first one is 5008, 5008, students who are homeless. So got the wrong one. There it is. Students are homeless. Now, what is the change on this? I see no changes.
It's a required policy. That the language was a required policy that was provided, and so there hasn't actually. I don't think we're accepting it as is.
So this language just came from
and actually
from the state?
It came from the state. It was a model policy, and it actually closely reflects the McKinney-Vento law, the language that you see on the front. It's a pretty clean match.
It matches statute.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next one is 50/50, disciplines pupils, suspension and expulsion of pupils. This looks to have just very small amount of language change here, except in short-term suspensions. A principal or in consultation with the superintendent or their designee may suspend pupils for 10 days or less for violations without the approval of the school board. That's one change, a change in language.
I like that.
Procedural safeguards allow opportunity for the student to tell his or her side of the story in a hearing, an informal hearing prior to the imposition of the suspension.
This is a locally crafted.
I think so.
And our attorney was involved in this
Yep.
one and the one after.
Right.
Move to adopt.
That's probably why these changes are here in the short-term suspension business. Yeah. So I'll make a motion. We approve it.
I already did, but.
Oh, you did. I'm sorry. I'll second it.
Either way.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finally, search and seizure policy 5085. There are small changes, but they could be mighty because it adds computers and other electronic devices for loaned property, which that's because there are many computers that are property of the districts, right? Is that right? That's why that was added in there.
I think so.
Yep. But in the need of the policy, under searches of students, searches by school personnel should not be done at the request of law enforcement unless an emergency situation or in the best judgment of the school administrator, a good faith effort will be made to contact the parent or guardian prior to the search. So I think that change, searches should not be intrusive, searches by school personnel shall not be done at the request of law enforcement. That particular sentence that's been added.
Yes.
I'm
And again,
supportive of
Dina,
that.
this is been-
Dina
yeah,
put
was
this-
involved in this
okay.
as well, yes.
Move to adopt.
So the rest of it is, yeah, that's the substantive, major substantive change.
Better change. Sure.
I second.
So I'll move that we approve it.
I'll second.
A second. Okay. Second by Kieran. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. You have a report.
I have just one little teeny thing to share, and it's from our equity coordinator, Jonathan Phipps. Juneteenth marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. The troops' arrival came a full 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth honors the end of slavery in the United States and is considered the longest running African-American holiday. On June 17, 2021, it officially became a federal holiday. The Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union and its local partners will collaborate and unite to host a public Juneteenth celebration and commemoration. The event is family-friendly, free of charge, open to the public, and educational and entertaining in its format. This effort is an opportunity to provide an open door to all of our community members so that they may learn about our nation's newest federal holiday, as well as the impact it has on our current times. This effort is a yearly occurrence in the hopes that will help to foster a sense of cooperation between community members and organizations to facilitate equity and inclusion initiatives. The event is this Saturday, June 17th, from noon to 3. It's held right outside this window right here, the SVSU Central Office Tuttle Lot at 113 Depot Street, Bennington, Vermont. And I have a flyer that I will pass on to Ray. If there's any place to hang a couple, Jonathan passed these along.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Laura.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I think I'm going to, it's 1 to 3.
What did I
12 to 3.
noon to
Sorry,
3,
12 to
noon
3.
to 3, yes.
Okay. I think I will try to make it to that on Saturday. Okay, so I really don't want to prolong this anymore. I said review of the Dina's advice from last month, but I made some notes on it and I emailed all of the board with those notes. That's my review on it. And since there's no decisions to be made, that's if you want to talk about it a little bit, that's fine with me. I think I summarized, I listened to it, the Zoom tape, I don't know what is it, Zoom file on Dina's presentation, and Amy Goslin was kind enough to get it for me, so so
That was a nice overview of that meeting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I think I think we will have to watch H483 because I
Next year.
suspect there may be some attempts to revive it in the next legislative session. But I think Dina pointed out some things that maybe could be useful, you know, like that we have to discuss with those committees if it does come around again.
Yep.
Make some points about how things look from a point of view of a non-operating district of a particular character, which we're probably unique in the state in that way. So otherwise, I did have one question for you, Laura.
Oh, yes.
Dina's presentation last month basically indicated that the district has no affirmative obligation to be researching whether any of the independent schools that are chosen by our students have signed, you know, the various things that they need to affirm under Rule 2200 in terms of accepting students with special education needs and also non-discrimination. Mm-hmm. And she had characterized discrimination in possibly two ways. Mm-hmm. It could be specified specifically, the language of, you know, we don't discriminate against these protected classes, mm-hmm. or it could be just a general affirmation, we don't discriminate, mm-hmm. which is less specific, mm-hmm. and allows a little wiggle room, mm-hmm. which is her point. Mm-hmm. So given that we don't have an affirmative obligation to research that information from the individual providers of schools, mm-hmm. My question is, do we have access to AOE or to tell us whether these schools that are being serving our students have actually signed those documents? Well, there's two questions. Are they actually in the process of seeking renewals right now? Because okay. She indicated every independent school would have to go through a renewal process.
Yes,
under Rule 2200 to make sure that they were complying. And can we, as long as they're still approved, we don't actually have to ask for affirmation of that at the moment.
Okay. So, but
I was thinking that I would like to know.
You want an update?
An update on each of these schools.
Okay.
And can I ask that? Do I do that, or can I ask the supervisor union to inquire for me?
Yes. So I think I've captured your question, and so I remember that part of Dina's presentation. So your question is around, and Dina talked about the renewal piece. So where is the state in the process of renewing independent private schools, and how is the AOE documenting and collecting, and can we have access to that information?
And can they make affirmations that we are legitimately, well, we're paying legitimately mm-hmm. for billings from individual institutions?
Okay.
I'm not concerned about the village school because I know what their policies are, mm-hmm. and but South Shore, Highland Hall, and Sacred Heart, Grace, I just wanted to affirm that I'm correct to pay them, which I think I am, but I
okay.
want to be sure.
All right, I will follow up.
And Pine Cobble now, because okay. I think we have another one for next year.
Okay.
For Pine Cobble.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm down to 1%, so.
Yeah, well, I'm ready to call this quits.
I'll make a motion to call it quits.
Hold one quick thing, please. You got a sec? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. This will be quick, I promise. Ray, you asked me to bring up the pricing for materials for renovating the pre-K bathrooms this summer.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yep.
That's okay. I just sent it to you, Kim and Matthew. As it stands right now, I'm looking at little over $3,000 to completely redo that bathroom.
That's pretty cheap.
Well, thanks to Rachel, we found some good deals on a few items over in the Albany area, which probably saved about $600-700 easily.
Yes.
So
Great.
So do you need an approval for this just to get it going? Do we need to do or we already did that in our other meeting, or?
If I recall, that was kind of the approval then. I think Ray just wanted me to bring up the amounts at this meeting today.
Go for it.
And I, unfortunately, in my minutes, I did not put that in there because it didn't occur to me at the time, but.
It was a
yes,
side
so
conversation.
I think we should, I believe that it's a legitimate expense for us.
Of course.
To do that renovation, and will help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so we're adjourned.